Hello, everybody. Hello. So I have been working on this Athena drawing, and I figured I'd do it on stream. This isn't for a video. I just wanted to draw Athena. I'll go into what exactly inspired this piece, but yeah, and I figured I'd have the last time I drew on stream, it was hard to keep track of chat while also paying attention to drawing, so I thought I would bring on fellow YouTuber Yuric Inc. Because we are friends, and I'm gonna call him on Discord now so he can join the conversation. Hello?
Hello?
Hello. So you're on stream now. I'm pretty sure you're audible. Chat, let me know if he is not. Welcome. So Yuric, he is a fellow history you don't you strictly do history, not whereas I do mythology. But otherwise our channels are pretty similar, other than that yours has big boobs.
That's true.
Yeah. So yeah, I just wanted to have someone on who could look at chat for me, because it's very difficult for me to multitask usually. But yeah, I think our channels have also I think our channels have a lot of crossover appeal. So I figured you would be a good person to, you in particular would be a good person to have on.
I mean, to be honest, I haven't posted in like a while.
Do you currently have a video in the works?
Yeah, but it's been busy with like university and, you know, a bit of fatigue.
Yeah. I'm currently working on a video that was supposed to be a like an in between, like a quick thing to do in between other bigger videos, but now it's been taking me a while. So yeah, I don't know when my last video was. It was at least a couple weeks ago. But yeah, but anyway, and so rather than continue working on that video that's already been taking me longer than expected, I saw this. Let me go to my Puref file on my other monitor. So I saw this image of, I assume this is a Roman statue of Athena, where she's holding her aegis, this kind of cloth with the Gorgon face on it. She's kind of, it's usually kind of just draped very like symmetrically over her, but in this statue it's kind of off to one side, and I just thought this was a neat look. And so then I wanted to kind of do my take on Athena inspired by this. There's a lot of different influences for the design here. I have this is my current Athena's design that I use for videos. I try to keep my Greek god designs more in line with Bronze Age designs. But I thought it would be fun to try to I've been reading through the Iliad again, and I thought it would be fun to try and make a Bronze Age looking version of how Athena's armor is described in the Iliad. So I basically I've just been looking at the Iliad's description of Athena's helmet, which is, and upon her head she had a helmet with 2 horns and with bosses 4, wrought of gold, and fitted with the men-at-arms of 100 cities. So I figure what that means is there's 4 plates. She has horns, which a lot of Mycenaean armor actually does have horns in depictions, and then 4 plates that are depicting like battle scenes. And so I tried to take this description and combine it with the Athena of the Parthenon's helmet with the 3 big combs on top, and then work in Bronze Age elements where with the like scenes of battle on the plates. I've just been looking at these scenes in Mycenaean pottery, and then looking at I mostly reference Peter Connolly's designs of like Trojan War armor and stuff, and I've just been trying to work that into. But yeah, I thought this has been fun. And then also, as for the Gorgon, I had this very vivid idea that I talked about with you over Discord of I like it's not really explained very much how the Gorgon's head is attached to the Aegis. It just says like she or Zeus put the Gorgon's head on her Aegis somehow. So I kind of like the idea that like this very macabre idea that she just skinned the Gorgon's face off and then stretched it into this like mantle to wear over her. And like the idea that it's like all skinned and stretched out but like still alive. I don't know. I like the idea of her having this like really cool like ornate armor and then just this disgusting little flap of skin with a face on it draped over her. So that's what I've been trying to do. Oh, you just told me your YouTube was delayed?
Yeah, it's kind of slow.
You're getting like maybe like lower the resolution.
Yeah, but I guess the problem is that I'm basically on the other side of the continent, so...
Yeah. Where is... Oh, yeah, that's where YouTube chat is. Hello, I haven't even looked at chats yet, so I'm going to look at chat while you're figuring that out. Will you do Oedipus after Jason? Yeah, I definitely intend to do... I intend to cover as much as possible before I finally get to the Trojan War.
Hold on, I have to reload because it's
Sure.
kind of frozen.
No worries. I'm just gonna start doodling because I've been wanting to draw this disgusting Gorgon face. And yeah, it's just gonna be a chill stream.
Yeah, I had to put the video in like 140p so it doesn't blow up my laptop.
Oh lord.
Sorry, Jake, but I don't have YouTuber money like you do.
I don't have much YouTuber money. I'm not exactly Mr. Beast either. Subscribe to Yuric and also me if you haven't, so we can both have Mr. Beast money, please.
Yeah, if you subscribe, don't expect me to have a consistent upload schedule because it's basically... You know how there are big YouTubers who make these like hour-long videos that are like high quality with like research?
Mm-hmm.
But they post like once every blue moon. It's like it's like an event when they upload
Yeah,
a video.
yeah. That's kind of your style.
Except it's like not at all. Except my videos are way lower quality and aren't as professional.
No, but I mean, your art is a lot cooler than mine in my videos. You put a lot more detail.
Yeah, but yours. Yeah, but like, to be honest, in like a practical perspective, my character designs are way too detailed for like proper animation.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't do much animation in my videos, but I have been kind of starting to. My work has been getting a lot more detailed lately, and it has kind of been a detriment to my efficiency. But I like my work a lot better, so I don't want to stop. I don't want to regress. But I did kind of originally work out my style very deliberately to be very simple, so I could work very efficiently, and that was the whole idea. But now that I've actually improved as an artist since then, I don't want to keep drawing in the same style. I want to evolve, and that's been a bit of a source of tension in my how I want to go about things.
I think maybe I should try like check through your screen because my YouTube is completely messed up.
Oh, okay. Maybe I will I'll try something. Can I screen share on Discord? Yes, I can. There we go. Okay, I'm screen sharing you my YouTube page that shows chat. Does that work?
Yeah, that works.
Okay, cool. So yeah, if anyone just says like a question or just something that you think we could talk about, anything worth responding to in chat, just let me know so I can stare at my computer screen.
Ishan asks, can you please cover the Gnostic myths, Gnostic mythology?
Oh wow. Well, so that's the thing is like I try to approach things in a sensible order. So for Gnosticism, good lord, like I would first need to cover Jesus as described in the Gospels, and before I do that, I would have to cover, you know, most of the Old Testament. And that's the other thing is the way I research things is very like I don't like really do, and I need to be better about this, honestly. I don't really do like a full deep dive into a subject till I'm like feel like I want to do a video about it. So I wouldn't currently know be informed enough on the subject to make a video on it, even if I wanted to skip ahead, because I think there's so much background information I would want to be straight on first. And so in terms of Gnosticism, that would have to be way in the future after I've covered more mainstream biblical stuff.
Yeah, because in general, agnostic is a pretty vague definition, I think. Like, it's not exactly a specific singular group, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't imagine like I don't imagine we have a very full, since they were a heresy, I don't imagine we have a super complete idea of their belief system. It is probably, I imagine, I don't know this, I imagine it is a very broad term for very esoteric heresies that we don't that have kind of been grouped together. That's just my assumption. I don't know that.
Crazy with Power asks, will you ever do Celtic mythology?
Yeah, totally. So I don't actually know much of anything about what sources exist for that. I imagine is it mainly just Romans not knowing what the hell they're talking about for Celtic
there's
mythology?
Also, but it's probably also like Greek, because there was also a period where there's like a tribe of Gauls that invaded like the Balkans, and some of them like managed to cross into Anatolia, and they basically just settled in the middle of Anatolia, and they became known as Galatians. So there's like a late group of Celts that settled in Anatolia, so in the middle of what is now Turkey.
Interesting. Oh wow, in Turkey, in Anatolia. Yeah, the problem there is like there are no primary sources, right? In terms of their.
Well, like, that's basically the thing with like most. Yeah, but that's like most continental European mythology tends to be like that.
Yeah. You get like really.
Like, the Prose Edda and the Poetic Edda are like a miracle, to be honest.
Yes, I was just about to say that. You learn about Norse mythology, and you're like, oh wow, it's so sad how we only have like the closest thing to like a pagan sources would probably be certain parts of the Poetic Edda, and then there's the Prose Edda, which is written by a Christian, interpreting his ancestors' mythology, and you're like, wow, it kind of sucks that that's all we have. And then you realize, oh no, it is beyond miraculous that we have that much, because everything else is next to nothing in terms of pre-Christian European mythology.
Noon Envy asks, favorite god, goddess, and why?
Oh Lord. I don't know why I have such a soft spot for Hephaestus. I think it's just because I think the design I gave him is cute, but that's always the answer that I think Hephaestus is just the easiest to to be endeared to for whatever reason. And he definitely no, I'm pretty sure he at least attempts sexual assault in certain accounts. But other than that, you know, who hasn't in Greek mythology? Cast the first stone. But other than that, he's, you know, not super problematic by modern standards. He seems like a pretty likable guy. So yeah, I like Hephaestus.
That one asks, will you ever cover Hindu mythology? Well, yeah, I feel like that's gonna be difficult because it's kind of like the opposite of Norse mythology, where it's like it has like a massive corpus of writing.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's hard to say. Obviously, that's something that would be, you know, I'm sure there's a ton of interesting shit to go into with that, but I currently would have no idea where to start. So like, it's daunting to even suggest that I will at some point, because it's just so alien to me, and I wouldn't know, even begin to know how to get into it and become knowledgeable enough to I didn't start out this way on this channel, but I do kind of put a lot of consideration in, like, do I know enough about this to basically play the part of a teacher, of an educator on the subject to other people? Because ultimately I'm, you know, I'm not a scholar.
I mean, you're a generalist, kind of like me.
Yes. Yeah. I'm just another nerd in the end. So like, I feel like I need to have a decent level of understanding. I need to be confident that I have a decent level of understanding on something before I get into it and start making videos on it. Obviously, okay, you know, I'm not
minus prime.
Go for it.
I was reading a question. Minus Prime asks, for Jake and Yuric, what is your favorite ancient country and city-state? Okay, I feel like this is like a very specific me question, because I don't know, Jake, if you really have an answer.
I feel like you definitely have a more detailed answer than me. I would just say Minoan Crete, because their art is pretty.
Okay, that's true. Like, Minoan art is very good, and not because they're based for drawing women the same way I draw them, but
yeah.
My favorite, well, historical state would probably be Middle Francia. It was this like kingdom that only existed for like a few years. It was basically like the Netherlands and northern Italy were basically one country. Yeah, I only liked it because it's very cursed to look at a map, and that's it.
Oh, my friend Emmy just donated $2, Norted Wayfinder. Hello, Emmy.
Caesarius Invictus asks, if you ever find the time, could you elaborate on Egyptian mythology?
Yes. So Egyptian is a bit more difficult because there aren't really sources that contain just straightforward narratives. So their mythology has to be basically reconstructed from offhand references all over the place. I want to say the only super straightforward narrative source would be Plutarch's work on Isis and Osiris, which is, I guess you wouldn't call that a primary source because, you know, he's a foreigner trying to explain Egyptian mythology from a Greek lens. That's where you get the account of the death and resurrection of Osiris. That includes an episode that is just the Homeric hymn to Demeter, the story of Demeter going to Eleusis and then adopting or becoming the nanny of a baby prince, and then trying to make him immortal by putting him in a hearth. And then his mother comes out and is like, "What the fuck are you doing?" And then she's like, "Well, damn, you ruined it." In Plutarch's account of Isis and Osiris, Isis goes to Cyprus. I want to say she goes to Cyprus and does the exact same thing. And it's clear that Plutarch is just inserting, is just syncretizing Isis with Demeter. So it's not it's a Hellenized account of Egyptian mythology. So it's
you have to consider the fact that Plutarch, when he was alive, he was like already like a Roman citizen. So this was around the time like Greece was already under Roman rule. So it's very likely that because it's maybe at like politics, maybe he did it because it's like, I don't know, I guess to explain Egyptian mythology to the Romans or something.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm not exactly sure when exactly this was, but it's like around the time Rome annexed Egypt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I could imagine there are political reasons to want to be like, hey, the Egyptians, they're actually a lot like us. See these parallels we can draw in their mythology.
Speaking of parallels, I mean, Plutarch is also known for writing a book called Parallel Lives, where he basically talks about like prominent Roman and Greek figures.
Yeah, that's right. He is into like comparative storytelling, huh? That is like a unique interest of his.
He's like the guy who's always like to make comparisons. So
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's see. What's another question? What is your favorite Norse myth? And are you going to continue covering it in your videos?
Yes, I do intend. I keep Norse mythology keeps getting away from me, because of my favorite Norse myth. I want to do it right. It's Utgarda-Loki, the story of Thor and Loki going to Utgard. I have a very distinct image in my mind of what that video is going to be, and I want to do it right, but it'll be a bigger video just by necessity of telling that story. So I just realized I kind of did a play on words there with calling it a big video where they go to Giant Land. But yeah, that's probably my favorite because it's just so funny, and I don't know, it's just a very like funny, satisfying story that I really like. Yes. So yeah, I mean, to get
also,
to
as you know, there's the fact that there's only so many Norse myths you can choose. So
yeah, there's a limited supply. That's see, the thing I like about Norse mythology in terms of like, you know, having to do my own rendition of it is it's nice that there is relatively little of it compared to like Greek mythology, and it has a definitive end. That's very nice, actually. But then I don't know. Sorry, what was that?
No, you can finish.
I was just gonna say, maybe because there is such a set path for it there, maybe that has kind of given me a little bit of paralysis, because it's like, okay, I know what the roadmap is, and so I don't know. Weirdly, maybe that could make me hesitant to continue, because I guess I've gotten more in my head about how I want to approach it. I don't know.
It's a bit of a tangent, but my favorite thing about ancient literature, like the Bible or mythology, is when they name drop a figure or something and they don't bother to explain what it is.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like this like Renaissance era Polish dictionary it's like pretty infamous because it has like a page called that is about a horse, and it's like it doesn't explain what it is. Like a horse, everybody knows what a horse is.
Mm-hmm. That's not a very useful dictionary, huh?
Yeah. I think like the Old Testament does that a lot. It's always like, and then there's this guy. He was a pretty big deal, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. There's in Genesis. There are sections that are yeah, it's the genealogy leading up to Noah. There's a few like very interesting name drops where it's like, yeah, you've heard of this guy, so we're not going to go into it, but like I mean, obviously Enoch, he lived 300 and whatever years, and then he was no more, for the Lord took him. And that's all, because obviously you know the rest of the story. And then there's, oh, I don't remember his name, but another guy who he lived when the world was split, or something to that effect. No
Yeah,
further
they love
elaboration.
they love to hype up a figure and then never explain who they are.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, Nimrod, the mighty hunter, who may or may not have been the king of Babel, I guess.
I have a question from Ishan Panshir. Do you have any plans for Persian mythology? So like the Shana May.
I wouldn't no, I would have to read that source, because I wouldn't know.
Yeah. I guess you have to like also learn about who Zarathustra is.
Yeah. That's Zoroastrianism?
Yeah, which is technically like a subsect of a much broader Iranian mythology. Because I mean, it's often characterized by like Western historians as like a monotheistic religion, but that's not really accurate. For example,
Yeah.
there's like an Iranian god called Mithra, who's who was very popular. He was like the god of the sun, but he was also the god of contracts. And there's also this funny story where the Romans, like during like the late Empire, had like an entire cult based on Mithras. But what's the funny thing is, it's not like the cult of Isis that was like imported from Egypt to Rome. It was more like the Romans built an entire religion based on vibes and aesthetic.
Interesting. I know Vinny. I don't know much about Mithras, but I know our mutual Vinny. No, it wasn't him. It was a comic that reminded me of his style of humor. It was like an old like newspaper cartoon of a Roman citizen opening his door, and then there's two guys. Hi, would you like to learn about the Church of Mithras?
Yeah, but the cult of Mithras is like, well, like most religious cults, like very mysterious. It's like Dionysus during like his early ages. It's like very hush hush.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was like a mystery cult.
Yeah, so it's kind of funny when Vinny basically designed the cult of Mithras is basically just the Freemasons.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, Vinny's so funny. We need to.
Yeah, it's basically like pajama parties.
I love that.
Let's see if there are any more questions. What about Slavic mythology?
What are the sources for that? I only know about Perun.
Yeah, I also know about like Perun. Well, I guess you have to like divide it into like three major regions because you have Western Slavs, Eastern Slavs, and the Southern Slavs. And you basically have to like compare in which how much continuity there's between each tradition.
Well, I'm sure those groups wouldn't mind me just, putting them all in one box together. I'm sure there would be no issue with that, right?
I'm sure a Serb would like to be grouped together with a Croat.
No issue with that.
I mean, there's also like Hungarian mythology, which is like a whole different thing. Since the Hungarians, or like in the Middle Ages, the Magyars originally came from, like in the Ural Mountains, so they had like a completely different mythology. There's like a theory that they might have worshipped, might have practiced Tangrinism, which is like the mythology in like Mongolia and Central Asia.
Oh wow.
So there's like a bit of a revival in for like shamanism in Hungary. You know, the funny thing about how there's a bit of a common, I don't know if it's like a misconception or myth that Hungarians are like descendants of the Huns.
Is it like just folk etymology that they have the word Hun in their name?
Yeah, because in Hungarian they're called Magyars, which is completely different. But the name Hungary, I think I'm not exactly sure the etymology, but I know that like the Germans call them Ungarn. Hungarians Ungarn was basically how, when Italian they call them Ungheresi.
Do you know the etymology of Hun?
But no, I think it's nobody really knows where it comes from. I think with the Huns is that there isn't really much, because well, there were nomads, so they didn't really write stuff.
Exactly.
So most of the information we have about them mostly comes from like Greek writing Romans, who basically just had to transliterate the names of their chiefs.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Like, nobody really knows how the name Attila is spelled, but the Attila has just become like the standard spelling.
I could swear there's some link to I don't know how this would figure. There's no I almost don't want to say this because it's I would have no idea where to trace this back to, but there's some connection to a name in Old Norse sources to the name Attila, but I that's just something rattling around in my brain, but I have no idea where that idea comes from.
It's kind of funny because during like the migration period in Europe, and even like during the Viking Age, Attila became something of a stock character. Like, he does show up in like in both Scandinavian writing and even German epic poetry. He kind of just becomes this like stock character, kind of like Alexander the Great.
Oh yeah. As like a stock villain, or yeah.
It varies. Sometimes he's more like an anti-hero, sometimes he's just kind of there, and sometimes he's more like a villain. Let's see if there any more. Any more? Noon Envy asks, question for Yuric and Jake. how did you start getting into mythology?
For me, it was as a Percy Jackson kid, and then I read D'Aulaire's Book of Greek Myths, which is just this really cool picture book with retellings of the Greek myths. And yeah, and then it was around the time that I decided to start making a channel on Greek mythology that I started digging into the actual classical sources.
Yeah, back when you used to make you made 2 Ruby scene reanimated.
Yeah, that's when I was learning animation in school, and so I just used audio from Ruby to practice animation. So yeah, those are sometimes I think about doing a third version of those, but I'm not like super. I don't consider myself a particularly skilled animator, and because of just the limited style that I use in my videos, a lot of skills that I learned in school have very much atrophied. So I don't know how good I would be if I started using techniques that I haven't used since school. But what got you
citing
into
sources?
I actually have gotten better at citing sources.
Yes, I haven't really cited my sources well. For example, I kind of just. Anyway, here's a list of the sources that I use, but it's not proper professional citing with inline citing with which page, which line,
Oh yeah. I'm very loosey-goosey with that, with formatting my citations, but I actually have gotten better at citing sources since the beginning of my channel. That's the one thing that has improved.
I got into mythology. Well, I was somewhat familiar with mythology because obviously, if you grew up in Italy, it's kind of hard not to learn about Roman stuff and Greek stuff. But and plus, there's also a lot of old pagan imagery in Italy as well.
Yeah, there's some still lying around, I imagine.
Yeah, there's a lot. And I guess another example would be, I think overly sarcastic productions is responsible for me getting into mythology. But mythology is more like a second thing because I do a lot of anthropology.
Yeah, I feel like that's
stuff,
more
but
your
I haven't read through every single version of the myth of Dionysus or something.
You're more broadly into history.
Yeah, but most specifically about stuff like linguistics or anthropology and states. I guess it's like geopolitics, but with anthropomorphic figures.
Yeah, that's what your channel is. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. Is there any more questions? When is the Japanese mythology video coming?
That'll happen. I'm sure it will. I own a copy of a couple translations of the Kojiki, so eventually I'll read that, and when I have an idea of how I would approach my own retelling of that mythology, then I will do that. The closest thing I've done to Japanese mythology, I guess it is Japanese mythology, Japanese folk horror, is my videos on Lafcadio Hearn's Japanese ghost stories. So not exactly, I guess, not a primary source. That's a European's retelling of Japanese folk stories that were still circulating in the late 19th, early 20th century. But as for like the
I'm not exactly sure how big is like Lafcadio Hearn's like work.
So in terms of his Japanese, his writing on Japanese culture, I want to say, I don't know if I've read all of that, but I want to say it's like maybe like a, 200, 300, 400 pages worth of stuff. And then I did just recently buy some of his journalistic writing in America that he wrote while living in America, and that's interesting to. That'll be interesting to dig into because I don't know if I'll make a video about it, but it's just something I've been personally curious. He wrote a lot about crimes in New Orleans and like murders, and I think he also wrote a lot about New Orleans culture as well. And yeah, I'm interested. I'm just interested to dig into that. I think he's one of the copies of his books on Japanese folktales had like a little was prefaced with a little mini biography on him, and he seems like a really interesting person. So I've just become curious about learning more about him.
Oh, you're telling me there's more nuance to Mr. OG Weeb?
Yeah. He is very much among the OG weebs. Who might be the oldest weeb? Is it Yasuke?
I mean, I guess maybe it's like, I don't know, one of the first European, like the first Portuguese to reach Japan was like, whoa.
Yeah, some Portuguese or Dutch dude. But
it's kind of funny because I remember like reading this like report from like a Portuguese writer was like, oh yeah, and like the Japanese are way better than those people at Korea and China. Japanese cities are way cooler. Like he was like straight up like glazing Japan all the way back in like the 17th century.
Oh my lord. Yeah, no, I believe it. Yeah, I mean it makes sense just because for so much of Japan's history it's been very homogenous, very not homogenous, but isolated, and that just gives it this kind of mystique to
yeah, I guess by this point most Europeans were like somewhat familiar with China thanks to Marco Polo and his writing, so they were dimly aware, but Japan was a complete mystery in comparison.
Yeah.
Let's see, any more questions? Jake and Yuric, do you know anything about Aztec mythology, and what are your favorite things about it? You've learned about it. Well, I don't know if you know anything about Aztec mythology, Jake.
Oh, Aztec. Yeah. Haven't. No. Only like tangentially aware of it. I haven't like actually looked into what are our sources on, like, or even so much as like an introductory overview of it. But I see that as a potential subject to cover on my channel eventually.
Yeah, the thing with like Aztec mythology is that it's like a part of a much broader Nahua tradition. Since basically you have to think of like the Mexica or the Aztecs is kind of like the Spartans or Athenians of ancient Greece. Like,
oh yeah,
they were more like a powerful city-state that ruled over many other cities. It's like they ruled over multiple cities where you had a bunch of Nahuatl-speaking people who all were a broadly similar pantheon. But the Mexica had like the god of war is the primary god.
Mm.
So you have to kind of view it in a similar vein as like ancient Greece.
Mm-hmm.
So how universal um, Aztec mythology is in like the much broader Nahua tradition is not very clear.
And I assume we don't have any primary sources. It's all just Spanish writers.
Well, it's like a mix of both Spanish, but also like Spanish raised Mexica people.
Oh, okay.
So it's like some Aztecs who like grew up during like the Spanish rule, but they wanted to like preserve their old tradition as well. So they also wrote a lot in Spanish as well.
I have one.
It's a similar thing also with like.
Go for it.
It's like a similar thing also with like Incan history and mythology. Like most of the writing comes from like the members of like the Inca aristocracy that became more Spanish and knew how to write it, but wanted to like preserve their old family tradition and stuff.
Like a lot like Snorri Sturluson basically writing the Prose Edda. Like a few, like are they like a few? They're a few generations removed from paganism, but they're still so. There's enough distance that they feel like they can talk about it without worrying that they're gonna make it look like they're backsliding into paganism.
Something akin to that, yes.
I don't know about the color of the Aegis. I'll probably play around with the color afterwards, but I do like how gross it looks. This was definitely the goal. But that it's just like regular skin color. I don't know.
GM Arkbolt asks, I hope one day you talk about King Arthur and his knights.
Oh, I
so
definitely
Arthurian
want to.
legend.
Yeah, I definitely.
Which means it's an excuse for me. It's an excuse for me and everyone else on the Discord to bully you to draw King Arthur in like late Roman armor.
So I've thought about how I would approach like the visual style of Arthurian legends. I assume I would use The Death of Arthur as my primary source, which I have not read. But I own it. I own so much shit that I haven't read. Just because I'm like, oh, I could probably make a video about this at some point. But anyway, since the Arthurian legends are like, they're mostly like late medieval people's romantic conception of sub-Roman Britain, right?
Yeah.
So
it's like,
yeah.
But technically it begins with like Brittonic and Welsh poetry, and then from then on it kind of just morphs. It kind of gets shifts into mostly French writers, and then from there it kind of goes on the deep end.
Yeah. So like as far as the sources that I would be using for a retelling of King Arthur, I would probably use something like The Death of Arthur, because I figure that's the closest thing to like a definitive idea where like these stories have existed in a familiar form for a while now, and this is kind of someone's attempt at making like a whole big thing out of it. So in terms of like the visual style, I think I would start with like sub-Roman, like referencing like sub-Roman armor and styles and stuff like that, and then kind of
compare it, like make a comparison with the more like mythologized version.
Yeah, I would kind of tweak it to fit late medieval stylistic sensibilities. I don't like fully know what that would look like, but yeah, I would basically be trying to visually represent it as sub-Roman Britain through a late medieval lens. And so yeah, I don't think
Well,
it would
it's more.
look totally historical in the end product, but
Uh, Dr. History asks, are you going to make a video on why Roman mythology is not just a copy of Greek mythology with just different Romanized names? Basically, explain like the difference between the two.
yeah, I probably should. It's such a nuanced situation. I would have to
It's
probably
kind of,
I would probably have to
I
study
mean, the problem.
Etruscan history and what we know about the like native Etruscan religion, and then once I have like a solid understanding of that, then I can start talking about the how it kind of how contact with Hellenic culture kind of they then began to kind of shape each other.
Yeah, the thing is that with that, that's more like proper history. Like it's
Yeah.
less about mythology, more about history.
Yeah.
But the thing is that you also have to consider that the Romans originally started with like this one of the Latins, Latini.
Mm.
So many gods. But the thing is that Greek culture was already deeply embedded even before Rome started to like rise into prominence. So the problem is that we basically know absolutely nothing about like the original Latin versions of the gods. It's
Yeah.
like it's been completely replaced by like the Greek version, so it's kind of difficult.
Yeah. Yeah, like
So it's like you have to like compare Greek, and then you have to compare with like Latin, then Etruscan, then you have to compare with like Oscan and Umbrian, and then so on forth. You're gonna drive yourself insane, basically.
yeah, no, I totally expect that I will, and that's kind of why it's something like it would just be so nuanced, and I hardly even know where I would start just to make sure I have a proper understanding of the subject. So yeah, but yeah, it's probably something worth, because it's something people love to be pedantic about. Whether or not they actually understand it, it's probably something worth making a video to try and clarify things. Yeah.
Yeah, and then there's also the fact that the Etruscan language is poor understood, so it's kind of also a difficult thing.
Yeah, the Great Courses has a lecture
another-
series on Etruscan culture, and I've been meaning to kind of dig into that as like my intro to that culture, just to make sure I have a solid footing, and then to see what can be known about them.
Okay, let's see here. Random Arab dude asks, would you ever make a video on Persian mythology? Well, this one you already answered. Or even one about 1001 Nights. It would be a cool video idea. So a little bit about so like Arabic and in general like Muslim world mythology.
Yeah, that would be 1001 Nights. I've definitely thought of. And I could see myself doing. Did I mess up the colors here? Yeah. Yeah, I could definitely see myself doing 1001 Nights. I would definitely, again, like Arabic culture, that's definitely something I would want to start, because of like I started with, Greek mythology, that sort of thing, and just kind of worked as I developed a better understanding of how to represent that culture. I just kind of, slowly upped my standards. So now approaching like a new culture that is somewhat alien to me, because now I've set like higher standards for myself for how I, depict you know, places and cultures and time periods, uh, it does feel intimidating. Like, okay, I want to make sure I do this right from the start. I want to make sure I, you know, accurately, I get the costuming right, and I don't like overlook any important like cultural details. So yeah, that's a little intimidating to me, but yes,
Oh,
it
that's also,
does seem like something I would want to do.
that's also the difficult point that there isn't really much visual depiction of like clothes and
Yeah,
people in Arabic art. I mean, there are some exceptions. For example, in
yeah,
the
of
city of
course.
Hatra, which is like the capital of like Arabian kingdom that used to, well, it's like an Arab inhabited kingdom which is located in like Iraq. It used to be part of like the Parthian Empire, but it's like one of the few places where there's like a lot of like art depicting, you know, Arab people or at least Arab aristocrats.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on, I can even show you some images if you
Oh,
want.
please do. Yeah, just post them and I could probably show them on stream.
No.
I've seen I've gotten questions on like how I would, if I would draw Muhammad if I ever had any reason to, and but I actually think I have an answer to that. What were you gonna say?
Yes. Yeah, just straight up start a war while you're at it.
Yeah. No, but I have seen in artwork Muslim prophets depicted with these like fire halos. And so I thought it would be cool to, if I had reason to draw Muhammad for something, I would just draw a dude and then just cover the face with a fire halo. And that would actually look kind of cool.
I mean,
and I think more
I mean,
people
usually
would be
in
okay
like,
with that.
I mean, in like, for example, Shia art, since it's mostly in Shia art, they usually depict Muhammad with usually in most cases, well, like a face covering, kind of similar to how Moses is depicted sometimes with like a face covering.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's
It's like it's a
go on.
it's like even Shia don't really dare to depict like Muhammad's face.
Yeah.
So you kind of, so even they depict him with like a cloth covering his face.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I figure, yeah.
I can see this like art is very Parthian-esque.
Yeah. Yeah, I if I had reason to depict Muhammad, I think I would first just consult a number of Muslims to be like, okay, how do you think I should approach this? And then go from there. But I do like the idea.
I think you're better. I think you're better off like depicting him as just like his calligraphy, like his symbol. Since it's much safer. It's like the safest option you have.
Yeah, that's probably the best idea. Yeah, what was I was thinking of something. Oh yeah, I've been thinking about how I want to depict, I've drawn in one video I've drawn Moses wearing his veil after he after his face starts glowing. But I've been starting to like think of how I could make that look, I don't know, more visually interesting, and I have some ideas, so I'll probably post them on our Discord. I don't have by the way, viewers, I do not have a public Discord, so we just have, I just have a Discord channel with friends, but where we like share art and stuff. But
yeah, with a bunch of history degenerates.
Yeah. But yeah, I have ideas. I need to see if there are any remotely contemporary depictions of like what sorts of veils or headdresses people in the Bronze Age Near East would have worn. I doubt there's much to go off of, which means I have license to
I do have
be creative.
I have this this like southern Just hold on, give me a second.
Sure.
Uh,
You're very useful to have on stream, Yuric, because you kind of fill in a lot of the historical blind spots that I have.
So, because usually in Abrahamic tradition, Arabs were often divided into two broad groups. You have like the northern Arabs called Adnanites, who claim to be descendant of Adnan, who's like a descendant of Ishmael.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the southern Arabs, who are called Catanites, who descend from Catan, a guy who's somewhat obscure, since we don't know much about him. And there's like an ancient, well, it's more of an Iron Age kingdom in the south, in what is now Yemen, called the Himyar. There's other kingdoms like Saba. So, for example, this is what a ancient southern Arab dress looks like. It's very simple. It's like a sculpture.
Oh yeah, I'll put that on screen. What? Sorry, what period am I looking at?
This is from the kingdom of Sheba or Saba. This is like 1000 BCE around.
Okay, that's
for example, this sculpture is from like this. Well, this statue, the sculpture is from like the 6th and 5th century BCE. So this is a bit, not exactly Bronze Age.
Mm-hmm. It's more within the ballpark of the Moses period.
It's very similar to like Egyptian
Yeah.
clothing. It's like a rolled up the tunic. Well, it's not a tunic. It's like I think it has like a name.
Yeah,
Because
no,
I'm thinking like people in Yemen still. I think people in Yemen today still wear something similar. It's like the traditional dress, but the sculpture is like a bit more like rolled up or something.
Yeah, it does kind of remind me of certain Egyptian garments.
Well, makes sense. I mean, they're in the Red Sea, so. It's like also this famous sculpture of like a Himyarite prince made out of bronze.
I'm liking his mustache.
Okay, let's see if there's any questions.
Sure. I think Vinny asked a question.
Will Yuric appear in a future? Oh. Where's Vinny?
He's V Salas.
Oh, okay. Jake, did you ever consider Irish mythology? It'd be very nice to see your retelling of the stories of Finn McCool and Cuchulainn.
Yeah, that's the. I always just need to find like a source to go off of for any given thing, and then I can consider if there's something I want to make a video on. What was the question you were reading before that?
I have to find it again. Oh yeah, so wanted to ask if I was going to show up in one of your videos.
If there's something that I can borrow your expertise for, that would probably be.
I mean, I don't know what exactly I'm supposed to do.
I
I guess they're asking if I'm going to voice act in one of your videos.
Yeah, having you as a cameo would probably be a good idea. Or if yeah, or if there's just
A Yuric
something.
Inc. jump scare.
Yeah, or if there's just something that you know a lot more about than me. If there ever something that like that, I would probably just have you be like, and here's Yuric, talk about this thing.
I'm pretty sure it's not going to be super jarring, like the sudden like change of topic.
Yeah. Well, like if it's like something where if I'm covering a topic and then there's some aspect to that topic that I realize that you know more about than me, I could just be like, and here's Yuric talking about this for like a minute and a half, and then cut back to me. That could probably be something.
I mean, it's probably like something like. But before I can talk about the legend of King Arthur, first I'm gonna invite Yuric to tell you about the Roman invasion and later the leaving exodus from Britain.
That actually could be something. I'm I'm not trying to plan future videos right now, but that actually could probably be useful because there are a lot of things that do require some historical context to get into that I am not super accustomed to having to explain. So that actually could, it's some for some future project, it might actually be useful to just have you or someone else just pop on to explain something real quick in better terms than I would be able to. So yeah, I might do that in some future video when necessary. That's a good thought.
Let's see another question. Oh yeah, it's another one by Vinny. If you see a lady with huge honkers in a Jake video, you know it was Yuric behind it.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes you look at a character, and if a character has a really big nose, you know it's going to be a drawing from Vinny.
Yeah. No, I think you guys have both infected me to some degree because I feel like more often than previously, I end up drawing characters with either big honkers or a big honkin' nose. So. If that becomes a recurring trend, everyone knows who to blame.
Bad influence for Jake.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see another question. Lovro asks, what's your favorite anime?
Favorite anime? I don't watch... The most recent anime I watched was Don Da Don with a friend, and I actually really liked it. But as for like my all-time favorites, I haven't watched like a super big amount of anime in the grand scheme of things. I really love Attack on Titan. I love Soul Eater was my first anime, and I still have a huge soft spot for it. Princess Jellyfish I also love. That deserves a new adaptation, I feel like. That's all I can think of on the top of my head. Death Note is cool. That's a pretty basic answer as well.
Well, I haven't really watched a lot of anime as of late. Like, I've been sometimes going... So, for example, sometimes when I go to, like, Germany, to the university, when I have spare money, I go to, like, the library, and I bought myself, like, a bunch of volumes of, like, JoJo. I just bought myself, like... some like of the Rohan spin-off mangas, and yeah.
Oh, the Lord of the Rings Rohan?
yeah, Rohan. Yeah. No, it's like a spin-off based on a character from JoJo.
Oh, okay, that's what I was thinking. I was like, did they make a tie-in manga to the shitty Lord of the Rings movie? I don't even know if that movie's shitty, but it doesn't look very particularly interesting to me.
That's another complaint, formal complaint from V. Salis, or also known as Duke de Vinny, who says Jake keeps refusing to use my character designs just because muscular women with honker noses are historically inaccurate for his Bible videos. How could you, Jake?
I'm sorry. I am committed to. I have some commitments that are greater than my commitments towards women with big honking noses. So, you know, I'm a man of principles. So I'm sorry, but I understand your pain.
Just another question. Who's your favorite historical figure? Because I like drawing famous or influential historical people. I don't know, Jake. You make mythology, so I don't know if you have one.
Yeah, I do. I do love Moses as a character, and you know there are biblical scholars who will argue that he can be considered a historical figure. I'm not sure where I fall on that in terms of my opinion, but we could say Moses. Like probably tons of like heroes and figures from mythology could be theoretically traced back to an actual human being, even though there's nothing surviving about them other than, you know, the exaggerated accounts of mythology. But yeah, I really like Moses as a character, so I'll say Moses.
Oh,
I'm sure you have an
personally, I
answer
don't
to
really
this.
have. Not really. Like, I don't know. I guess there's some historical figures I'm interested, but isn't like a favorite, because the thing is that if you say, "Oh, this is my favorite historical figure," some guy is going to go, "Oh, actually, this figure is problematic because they killed a lot of people, so you're not allowed to like them."
Yeah, yeah. that's a
But
bit
it's
of
yeah,
an inherent issue with choosing. Yeah.
it's like, oh, yeah. For example, I say, "Oh, my favorite historical person is Charlemagne," and some guy is going to go, actually, Charlemagne was destroyed thousands of cultures and killed 4,000 Saxon prisoners and blah 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 blah.
Who hasn't? Let's be honest.
I mean, yeah, of course, my favorite historical figure is a war criminal because the concept of war crimes didn't exist back then.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. No, I've been reading a lot of Euripides lately, and I do like him a lot. I have a sneaking suspicion he might have. I'm like 50-50 on whether or not Euripides was like kind of based for his time, or he was like a typical horrible misogynist as any ancient Athenian would have been. I'm 50-50 on where he falls on that. But I do think he wrote a lot of bangers. So right now, Euripides might be one of my favorites.
Well, I guess another historical figure that I like would be Herodotus, because he had like the craziest writing style. Well, not the craziest writing style, but he basically was like a walking, talking encyclopedia of like ancient Roman. What am I talking about? Ancient Greek world of the world, and like their beliefs and what he thought the world was like.
Yeah, I think about how like in obviously Herodotus would have been literate, but still, even in times that were like people from periods who were less where just people in general relied on writing less, they must have had like more reliable memories. Like they must have been walking encyclopedias just out of necessity.
mean, yeah, many like cultures and have like an entire cast of people whose primary job is to basically memorize the entire nation's or people's history and culture and
Mm-hmm.
religion. So, but what made Herodotus special is that he was like the first guy to really do like investigative
Mm-hmm.
writing. Like he went to in person to people. He didn't just like go around asking like Greek soldiers. He also went around like asking like Medes, Persians,
Mm.
Assyrians, Babylonians, Egyptians. Like he traveled all over the place to really get like a full picture. So he's more like the first guy who really tried to find a more proper methodology in how to get information.
Mm-hmm.
So, which is also why he ends up also writing a lot of more fantastical stuff,
Yeah.
uh, like the whole thing of like the giant gold digging ants in India, or how. The funny thing about his writing is that he basically goes on like massive tangents. Like 1 second he's talking about one thing, and then he goes on like five chapters about something else.
Yeah, I need to read more. I haven't read many ancient historians. Usually just excerpts that are relevant for mythology. Like when I was doing my Heracles videos, I was hunting through a lot of Diodorus Siculus's work uh, because he includes accounts of like a kind of rationalized accounts of the Hercules myths, like that are tend to be a lot more grounded in what would have seemed more plausible to him than what the uh,
So basically,
classic
it's
style
like a
myths.
big temple doesn't want you no, big temple doesn't want you to know this, but this is the actual truth behind the myths of Hercules.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
A big temple.
Big Temple, the Big Temple Corporation.
Let's see, any more question? Like a lot of people ask you about like Egyptian mythology, like another one, but you've already talked about it.
Yeah, I have a specific idea for what the next Egyptian mythology video will be, but I don't know what I'm gonna get to it because have to do a lot of research before then. So we'll see.
Let's see.
I'm pretty much done now. I'm not content with the colors, and I also just kind of didn't know what to do with her dress at the bottom, but I'll probably do some tweaks. But otherwise, this is pretty much done now. But I'm down to continue answering questions if there are any more. Here's my cat.
Damn, I wish I could see something, but I can't because screen share.
Oh, that's right.
Let's see. Any more? Oh yeah, it's one a question by Minus Prime who asks, if we've ever heard of a Sabaton.
Sabaton, what's that?
I know about Sabaton. They're like a metal band I
Yeah,
think from Sweden.
Yeah.
They primarily do like history themed music. Yes, history themed songs. Like it's like the one that's like a famous one about like the Polish winged hussars and stuff like that. But metal band, and they're very popular with like young men who are into history, young men who peruse around Reddit.
Oh, interesting. Like actually kind of guys.
Sort of.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I've never really met a Sabaton fan, and then I've never really listened to their music, so I can't really give an opinion on it.
Mm-hmm. We are neutral on
And it's pretty clear
Sabaton.
that it's the yeah, because we've never heard of it. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, we've never listened to their music.
Uh, Lovro asks, do you think did Aphrodite came from Uranus or she's daughter of Zeus? Depends on whether you ask Homer or Hesiod. Hesiod says Aphrodite was born out of Uranus's severed genitalia, and Homer says that she's the daughter of Zeus and Dione. Is it Dione? I need to check.
I mean, you could make the argument that because Homer, whoever he was, is the most popular. Well, not the most popular, the oldest. People tend to kind of go with him by default. But to be honest, Hesiod was like the first to try to really make like a canon background story for all the gods.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Aphrodite. Aphrodite's mother, according to Homer, is Dione. Yeah. Hesiod is obviously Homer is the better storyteller, but Hesiod was the guy who tried to compile all the information he could find into like a sensical, overarching narrative and genealogy. Um,
Basic, Basically, he was like the equivalent to like a neutral Wikipedia article, except
yeah.
with far more sexism.
Yeah, yeah, neutral in every matter except for how awesome Hecate is and how much women suck. He editorialized a little in those two respects, admittedly. Yeah, but anyway, clearly there were two different traditions. One where she was the daughter of Zeus, and one where she came from Uranus's genitalia, and so like they're both. I would assume they were both circulating. Like, I don't think Homer or Hesiod made either of those up. So they were just two different circulating versions.
Vinny says, Jake has stolen all the artifacts I dug from Ireland, and now I can't prove Emperor Scrungus was real, and now everyone thinks I'm crazy.
I don't know how to help you there, man. Sorry.
There was no Emperor Scrungus. What are you on about, Vinny?
Yeah, those scrungless truthers, they're very vocal.
Patrick says, did I come late? Yes.
Yeah, we're probably wrapping this up, but I'm happy to answer a few more questions.
You missed the part where Jake did a backflip.
Yeah, it's true. I'm very shredded and athletic, but I won't be confirming that claim.
You also missed the part where I did a face reveal.
Yeah. You snooze, you lose. Did my music stop? Yes, it did. Oh well.
Let's see. Is that a question?
Uh,
Luis Rodrigo asks, speaking of, what's your stance on the Homeric question? Basically, like if he was like a real person or like an amalgamation.
I have no idea on that matter. I'm sure there's like I do find source criticism interesting. I did a whole thing about like the documentary hypothesis. So I'm sure there's interesting things to look into regarding source criticism on Homer, but I certainly don't know enough to have an opinion on the matter. So yeah, I would say I could go either way. I know there are scholars with very strong opinions on the matter. So, yeah, that might be worth making a video about. I just don't know if there's enough We'll see if there's enough information for me to have a strong opinion on the matter, or whether it's just kind of up in the air and there's not much of a consensus.
I guess you kind of have to start with like, where exactly did crediting this Homer guy start?
Yeah, yeah. It definitely traces back to some of the Homeric hymns. Like I think the Homeric hymn to Apollo explicitly mentions Homer, so that trait like as an individual. I don't know about other sources from. There are probably earlier sources from antiquity mentioning Homer, but yeah.
Another another question is, would you consider doing another tier list on how gods smell?
There's probably I'll probably pick a different subject, but that probably is a good idea. I've been uh reading slash watching a lot of Greek tragedies, and I've been making a tier list for that. Let me pull that out. Wait, I don't want to show
Uh,
anything.
which ancient Greek god can bench press the most?
Probably Heracles, or Kratos, since he's the embodiment of strength. Okay, this is my Greek tragedy tier list. In S tier, we got Medea, Iphigenia, Oedipus Rex, Electra. Agamemnon's in A tier. Then the B tier and C tier is Libation Bearers, Eumenides, Hippolytus, Ajax, and Sophocles Electra is an S tier. It just did not. People love Sophocles Electra. I put Euripides Electra in S tier, but I just did not connect with Sophocles. I'll probably spend more time with all of these and form stronger opinions. But for now, I'm definitely a Euripides fanboy, I will say. But maybe I can learn to appreciate Sophocles and Aeschylus more over time.
It's another question, but it's like a history question, so I don't know if it really matters with you.
No, go for it.
So Minos Prime asks, how drastically would history have changed if the Vinland colony worked? Do you know about Vinland?
Yeah, Leif Erikson's colony in somewhere in Canada.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know. I feel like it simply wouldn't have really worked due to distance and
Yeah.
also like shift in like climate, because it was like, I feel like, because it wasn't really much of a serious settlement. It was more of a pit stop. It served more as a pit stop to get like resources, and that's it. It wasn't like a super serious attempt to colonize it. And if they did try to really, set their foot on Finland, it would have happened like much later. But it was pretty obvious that
Yeah, I just don't imagine.
probably wouldn't have worked.
Yeah, I just don't imagine medieval Icelanders. Or wait, was Leif Erikson from Iceland or Greenland?
Greenland is like it's like the clickbait name.
Yeah, yeah. I don't imagine they would have had the capacity to do what Spain and Italy did when they discovered the Americas. Even if they
but you have to consider that, because you have to consider the fact that the Greenland itself was already like only a sparsely populated colony on its own.
Yeah.
So it's like even fewer people to settle in Vinland. So convincing a bunch of people to basically go in like all the way to Vinland would have been difficult.
Yeah. And I don't imagine there was enough resources easily accessible from there to even make that kind of thing worth it. Even if like someone else
heard about
the colonies.
So in the end, it basically just served as sort of like a pit stop to get some wood and maybe trade some fur, and that's it.
Yeah.
I mean, the Vikings had like a bunch of these sort of like pit stops, checkpoints throughout like Northern Europe and even like throughout like what is now Ukraine and Belarus, and even in there, they're pretty far fetched.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's kind of
yeah.
like the Phoenicians or the Greeks. They were
Mhm. Yeah, they were certainly, active traders. I just can't imagine they would have had the interest or capacity to uh make, huge colonies there and then to establish trade at the scale of
also they
like
weren't
Spain.
also they weren't like an entire organization. They were more like small groups, small
Yeah.
parties, not like an entire. They weren't like fully organized. Like the only time there was like proper like invasion would probably be like during like the Great Heathen Army that conquered parts of Britain.
Yeah, yeah. Uh Lovro asks, "Have you read Sophocles' Antigone?" I'm about to. YouTube has some uploads. So I just watched Oedipus Rex, this awesome 1956 production where everyone was in these like awesome looking masks, and then I've basically just been looking on YouTube for slime tutorials of Greek plays wherever I can find them. And so I found one for Oedipus at Colonus, and then there's also a legitimate streaming version that I found of Antigone that I'm looking forward to watching. So I will update my tier. I'll probably post my tier list once I've watched through a greater amount of the uh, Greek Athenian tragedy catalog, and eventually I'll probably post it once I'm very confident in my Greek tragedy hot takes.
And Lewis, no, wait. One was like asking about like Mesopotamian mythology.
Ooh, I really want to do that. I definitely want to do the Epic of Gilgamesh and Enuma Elish, and there's a lot of smaller stuff. Oh yeah, and Atrahasis. I'm definitely gonna do those. I don't know when because it's gonna take like I'd want to start with Enuma Elish, which would be very big because there's a lot of gods. Uh, so a lot of gods to design. So yeah, I intend to do that. I don't know when.
Yeah, that's basically like, guys, chat. If you're gonna ask a question to Jake, like, Jake, will you cover blank?
Yeah.
Inevitably, he's going to reply with, yes, but first I need to do some research first. I also have
Yeah.
other stuff to do first. So basically, most of the answers are gonna be this.
Yeah, yeah, that's basically my blanket answer for most will you do X. But I guess I'm closer to my inevitable Mesopotamian mythology series than with other things for what that's worth.
Yeah, but first, yeah, like you're doing like more like the big main, at least very Eurocentric mythology, like Greek, Norse, and well, I guess Egyptian, but it's not really European, but whatever.
Mhm. Yeah.
At least like the main big ones.
Mhm. Mhm. Puts on Kutsan asks, which goddess would you have chosen in place of Paris? Like if I guess if I had the golden apple, I would probably pick Hera because I'd be the most scared of Hera's vengeance if I if I had to choose between the three. Uh, Athena would probably also be scary, as one can tell. But I feel like Hera is the most practiced at fucking over humans who pissed her off. So yeah, I would probably give the apple to Hera. All right, I think I'm gonna wrap things up now. But thank you very much for joining me on such short notice, Yuric. This was very fun, and you actually are a good person to have on because you fill in a lot of the areas where I kind of have a blind spot historically.
Well, to be honest, it was just yapping about history, and that's all I did.
That's good content, though. That's good.
We're cross-pollinating our channels.
Yeah, everyone go check out Yuric's channel and subscribe to him if you liked listening to him yap about
Yeah, but
history.
if you like listening to my distinct accent and voice, then yeah, you might enjoy my videos. Even though I upload like, you know how Jake uploads like every 3 weeks or something.
Mm-hmm.
I upload like once every blue moon, basically.
Mm-hmm. Well, once we're making Mr. Beast money, hopefully that'll change. But yeah, thank you all very much. My cats are demanding food, so I should probably attend to their needs. All right, thank you, Yuric, and thank you, everyone.